Harvard President Claudine Gay's plagiarism, after 2 weeks of coverage here, has finally caught the attention of the legacy media. And Harvard's now trying to change the definition of plagiarism to save themselves the shame of having to fire its first black president. For those of you keeping score at home, Gay is now guilty of over 40 instances of plagiarism. That's over 2/3 of her scholarly work, which was, how should we say this, thin already. Harvard itself is finding new instances of plagiarism, but they don't call it that. Harvard determined that Gay used, quote, duplicative language without appropriate attribution. Don't you see? It's not homicide. The suspect merely plunged the knife into the artery, causing uncontrollable bleeding, resulting in heart failure. Even CNN, who famously redefined looting as shopping without money, isn't having it.
The big question, I think, in the future is, how will Harvard be able to punish any students found guilty of the same offense without inviting a lawsuit? Because if she gets away with something that students can't get away with, that could be messy legally for the school.
Yeah, Jake, things could get messy when you hire an academic fraud and don't cut her loose because she's black. Now, how do I know she's being protected because of her skin color? Well, because Harvard fired the very Caucasian Larry Summers for merely saying men and women are different, which is an undeniable truth. Now, if white male Harvard presidents can speak the truth and black female Harvard presidents are allowed to lie, cheat, and steal, then Jesse Jr. is going to Yale. Early decision. But this has always been the goal, hasn't it? Diversity, equity, and inclusion were initiatives never about making everybody equal. They were just about creating different standards for different races and genders. A lower standard is racist. It assumes that different races and genders aren't capable of meeting the higher standards of conduct that others are expected to meet. By not terminating Gay immediately, it tells different races and genders that you're not equal. You need special treatment. What year is it? Because there are hundreds of exceptionally qualified black female academics who would make marvelous presidents at Harvard, who haven't plagiarized their entire career. This pathetic standard's an insult to blacks, and it's an insult to women. By protecting Gay, you're hurting blacks and women, and you're insulting all of us. And to grade on a racial curve at Harvard, the place which is supposed to be the pinnacle of meritocracy, sends a message to young Americans not to strive for excellence, but to lazily exploit their identity. The so-called ivory tower of the Ivy League's been poisoned. And that poison's trickling down and destroying our institutions. DEI is dying. And Harvard has to do the right thing and pull the plug and send a message to America about who we are. Plagiarism, just like cheating on your taxes and bribery, has always been disqualifying.
A university president resigning after admitting to plagiarizing in his commencement speech. University of South Carolina President Bob Caslin's words were nearly identical to a speech by the former head of U.S. Special Operations.
That college president resigned for plagiarizing 2 paragraphs in 1 speech. President Gay has plagiarized countless paragraphs her entire career, and she doesn't have the class or integrity to resign. One reason, maybe, is because Harvard academics are defending her. A Harvard law professor told The Times, it's part of this extreme right-wing attack on elite institutions. If it came from some other quarter, I might be granting it some credence, but not from these people. That makes sense. So it's kind of like if right-wing people discovered Biden took Chinese bribes, Harvard probably wouldn't believe it. Actually, just happened. Greg Lukianoff's the co-author of The Canceling of the American Mind. All right, Greg, what kind of message is this sending that Harvard's keeping this woman around?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a terrible year for Harvard, and during Claudine Gay's short tenure, they've planted dead last on our free speech ranking, our fire free speech ranking. They actually got a negative score. They flubbed the antisemitism hearing, did a terrible job at that, and now there's all these very serious plagiarism allegations. This is very bad for Harvard, but the one good thing that's coming out of it for us who've been sounding the alarm on there being a problem in higher education is nobody, no serious person at least, can say there isn't something very seriously wrong, particularly at Harvard, particularly at elite higher education today.
If Harvard's the crown jewel, because we've always been told it's the crown jewel. I mean, it's up there on the crown, you know, with the rest of the things that make America great. We've been told that. If this crown jewel is rotten to the core, what does that mean for the rest of the country?
Well, I mean, the Ivy League all did terribly in terms of free speech and cancel culture. Some of the other schools are doing a pretty good job. University of Virginia has done a good job, University of Chicago, but we really got to rethink the way we do this whole thing. And one great thing that actually came out of the anti-Semitism hearings and President McGill at University of Pennsylvania stepping down was the alumni and donors in that case produced this vision statement for a future of higher education that relies on free speech, that doesn't rely on ideology, that wouldn't tolerate gross academic misconduct. And I think that if some schools start following that, they stand a fighting chance.
Well, I don't know if this country stands a fighting chance because you have a lot of people that go to Harvard and then land up at the CIA, the FBI, the White House, corporate America, and they've been infected by this garbage. I don't know how you undo this. Is this going to take a generation?
We talk about this in Canceling of the American Mind. We talk about how to keep your corporations out of the culture war. And after my last book came out, leaders, corporate leaders from all across the country told me they weren't hiring Ivy League kids anymore because they were dysfunctional. They weren't what they were promised. But they were afraid to say that out loud. I think that's starting to end, and I think we'd be a lot healthier of a country if people hired a lot more people from Ohio State and a lot fewer from Harvard.
Well, let's not go so far, Ohio State. Let's maybe Penn State. No,
sure.
No offense, Buckeyes. I love you guys.
Pick your favorite.
All right. Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Take care, Jesse.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.